Right. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Ask and you shall receive.
There you go. Hey, this is the only part that's worked so far tonight, guys. So this is supposed to be Under the Porch with Blondie and Snake and Bob Locke. But Snake, we are having trouble getting him on. So
well, that's all right. He's tenacious. He'll make it.
We'll get him on here at some point. And if we have to, we'll do the call again. But we're going to go through this right now. We don't have a disclaimer because you guys know the drill. We're not doing, giving financial information, all that stuff. And we're just going to be freewheeling tonight under the porch. And, on the next call, we'll get it figured out. Kind of like you said, Bob, I heard you tonight. It was hard getting you on there. So, who knows what's going on. And then somebody just texted me, solar flares are interrupting signals. So I'm not sure about that.
No, that's true.
Oh.
That's true. There's big time, one of the biggest in a long time. So that's an interesting. I'd forgotten about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I see you're coming in on your. Okay, I see you're coming in on your wife's number. So okay. Well,
really?
So guys, yeah. So that's.
You see 560?
I see 3125. Yeah. 560.
No, that's me.
Oh,
I don't know why.
Well,
that's okay. I'll put on my. I'll put on my feminine persona. Okay.
It's a chick's name. Well, what can I tell you? Okay, so guys, so the format here, it's just, we're under no, it's just us. So we're going to talk however we want. If it's politics, so don't anybody complain for off-colored marks because we kind of don't care. And so we're just going to now go with the flow here. Bob is soon to be a Pulitzer Prize winner, and he's got a new book out, and that's what we're going to talk about. And Jody, if you can kind of stop the beeping and I guess the calls from coming in, so that Bob can do his thing. I'm just hearing lots of dinging.
Well, every time a new caller gets on, you're going to hear that. And I don't think with free conference that there's a way to do that. When people enter or leave, it's kind of there. So for now anyway, unless Jody can figure that out, then, let's just moderate when we're speaking if a bunch of those are coming in, understanding that we may sound a little garbled. And kind of work around them, and let's play it as it goes.
If you're good with that, take it away, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
No. I can't. I mean, my computer now is restarting because all of a sudden, I saw that I was muted. I unmuted, but then I saw at the top it was muted, and I went to do it, unmute it, and my mouse stopped working. So it was like I had to reboot my computer. So I'm on my phone. So I can't see how many callers there are. I can't see questions. I can't see anything. So it's kind of like the calls that we did, a couple of years ago. With
blonde
you, me, and
leading
Snake,
the blind.
Right?
The blonde leading the blind. Yeah, there we go.
I remember a call when I was running through airports, and I had to find a nice quiet place so that we could sit and I could have a call, and every once in a while they'd call a flight, and people would say, who's making all that noise?
Yes, I think back in those days your alias was Lurkin' Bob Locke, wasn't it?
It was.
You were lurking through the airport. Okay.
Well,
okay.
You know what?
So
here's what I'm thinking, Blondie. I know that Snake is going to do everything he can to get on here. So until then at least let's give people some information, kind of what this call is all about. Let me do a little intro here, and you know, somebody just said, yeah, like who's on first. So we conceived this call because Snake and I and Blondie haven't talked in quite some time, and I miss them, to be honest. And so I reached out and I said, we should do a call, and there's a bunch of stuff to talk about. There's a bunch of commonality in all of our backgrounds and experiences that people have found value in, and I think it's worthwhile. I've been asked a lot of times to pull back together, and so my thought was, we'll go into this. If anybody has any, you, Blondie, Snake, me, has any information pertinent to upcoming appointments and things like that, then we can talk about that, obviously, but that's not the sole purpose of this call. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, and one of the things, obviously, that I want to talk about is my new book, because I think it's very relevant to a lot of the people that are in here. Certainly, it has been to a lot of the people in my chat. And for those of you that don't know, I recently came out with a book titled Managing Sudden Wealth Through Smart Team Building. And the book came out of a series of discussions that I had with members of this community who asked me, could they come on? Could I help them create their trusts after our appointments? And I have said for quite some time now that I won't be taking on any new clients after our appointments, because I know that there's a million people out there, and I just wouldn't have the time, because I'm going to be helping existing clients, and I'm going to be doing my own projects, and I'm going to be helping people to build professional teams to help to manage and grow the proceeds that they receive from their speculation in these different currencies. And so it started as, can you hear me still? Okay, good. Thanks, Kenny. So anyway, it started as a blog post, and it just, as I got into it, there was so much, it just kind of took on a life of its own, honestly, and I just kind of felt guided to it. It sounds corny, but it was like I just kept on going, and as I looked at what I had written and sketched out notes and, meditated and prayed, and it came together, and it turned into a 140-page ebook and a 240-page hardcover book that is designed as a simple guidebook for people who really have never had to hire or had little experience hiring and managing professionals like attorneys, CPAs, wealth managers, investment managers, trust managers, et cetera, et cetera. And so it just kind of, was born. And when I read it, it's really funny, because when I go back and read different parts of it, when people ask me about different information, so much of this stuff just came, I don't even know how it came through me. The amount of knowledge that I amassed in researching and writing the book to this day really is something that humbles me. And I've had a lot of really positive feedback on it. And just let me give it to you in a nutshell, okay? The first chapter is kind of an homage to all of the people in this community who have speculated in currencies, who have been beaten up by families and friends and spouses and neighbors, about speculating in international currencies. And, and a lot of the people that I come across, a lot of people that I help create their trusts in anticipation of these appointments, they have a lot of negative feedback. And, people say, no, there's no way it's going to happen. And even if it happened, you're not the kind of person that's ever going to be able to profit from this, and it's a scam. So the first chapter is just a history lesson. It's a history lesson in currencies and how currency systems and monetary systems came to be and how they developed. And then it goes through revaluations historically. And it ends with a discussion of the revaluation of the Kuwaiti dinar after Operation Desert Storm and all that stuff was done, and then looks with anticipation at the Iraqi dinar and all of the factors that really signal that a revaluation is going to take place. And I've said this many times, I don't ride the emotional roller coaster anymore. To me, it's much more important for me to look at anecdotal evidence that I see out there in the mainstream media that indicates to me that massive changes are taking place in the international monetary system. And you see the de-dollarization articles yesterday and today. American banks have $500 billion in unrealized losses due to de-dollarization because of BRICS countries and other countries that are moving away from the dollar and the dollar's replacement as a world reserve currency, and what that means and what that means in terms of the investments that people have made as they speculated in some of these international currencies. And just to give you an idea, okay, Bonnie, I told you the story. I first invested in $100 trillion Zim bond notes probably 13 years ago. I bought a 100-team note for $10. If I wanted to replace that note today, it would cost me $250. All right, and in anybody's book, that speculation was a profitable one for me, and I'm not done yet. I'm not getting rid of them. So the first chapter is really just kind of put people at ease that you're not nuts, and understand that most of the people that are talking negatively about this either have a vested interest in you not profiting from it, or they've got poverty mentality, and that's controlling their thoughts. And because they could never see themselves doing this, and they don't take those kinds of risks, then you shouldn't be able to either. So that's kind of how I walk into the discussion. The next chapter talks about the idea of building professional. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, real quick. When you said that number about the $500 billion about the banks,
yeah,
is that
yeah.
That doesn't include the derivatives, does it?
Oh no, not even.
Okay,
close.
okay.
No,
okay.
That's just
that's what I thought.
Outward.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
okay.
that's just the stuff that's on the books that's public facing.
Okay.
And yeah, so no, that's a good point, Bonnie, because no, the derivatives. I mean, my God, those blow up,
yeah.
And we're pushing wheelbarrows full of paper. Federal Reserve notes to get a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk.
Actually, what would you guess that is? What are the derivatives? Would you guess?
Oh, they're probably $300 trillion.
Oh my gosh! Oh wow!
More than the GDP of the entire planet.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I didn't mean to blow the flow there, dear. So keep going.
That's okay. You know me. I talk too much. You can just put a stop to me whenever you wish.
Okay.
No. So second chapter looks at just takes a step back and says, okay, here you are, and you're getting ready for your appointment. Now let's talk about your appointment goes through. You get a return, whatever that return is. Not everybody's got a suitcase full of foreign currencies. There are people that I've come into contact with that have very large amounts, but most people have not a ton, but enough that they will be more liquid than they ever have been in their entire lives. And so, to go from working a full-time job or two to all of a sudden having 6 figures, 7 figures in the bank, liquid, that's something that you need to contemplate, and you need to contemplate it before that event happens, no matter what the number is. And you need to think about things. And so it's a guide to focusing your thoughts on, am I interested in, I'm going to need some professional advice. I might need a wealth manager, I might not. I might need I'll probably need an investment manager. Might need a trust manager, I might not. I'm probably going to need a lawyer, and I'm probably going to need a CPA. And where would I go to find them? How would I screen them? What questions would I ask them? When I hire them, am I going to hire them full-time? Am I going to hire them part-time? And, all those things that are involved in that whole thing. And then just the whole idea of, well, you're going to be hiring professionals, particularly if you've got humanitarian projects. You're going to be hiring professionals, and it's going to be really important that the people that you hire play well in the sandbox together, that they're all focused and committed on your vision, on your goal for your money and for your project, and that you don't end up with a bunch of prima donnas who are out there preening and spending your money and not necessarily all pulling oars in the same direction. And so it gives case studies and other information just about the idea of building a professional team generally. And then the rest of the book is just, how do I locate and screen and hire and manage an attorney, a paralegal, a CPA. Each one's got their own chapter. And wealth manager, investment manager, trust manager. And then the last chapter of the book is kind of a bonus chapter, and that is it's all about, it's a case study on building a professional team to carry out and manage a humanitarian project that is focused on homeless veterans and getting them clothed and getting them fed and getting them housed and getting them treatment for PTSD or alcoholism or drug abuse, training them in the trades or getting them, education if they want to go into higher education and getting them houses, things like that. And it found a really, really good set of information on to put together a case study that will really give people something to think about and guide their thoughts, even if they're not interested in doing a project on homeless veterans. It'll give you plenty to start the thought process for whatever your particular project is. So it is. There are resources in there that guide you to, I'm looking for a lawyer. Well, if you're, in this state, this is where you can look, or nationally here in the U.S., this is where you can look. If you're in Canada, or you're in the UK, or New Zealand, or Australia, or anywhere in the EU, if you're in the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, it's got information in there and links to resources where you can go and you can find those professional skills in your country. And that to me, I think is the biggest thing. And the questions, at least the initial questions. And then there's space in the book for you to take notes so that you can kind of put your own individual information in there. So you've got essentially a guidebook that you can carry around with you and do exactly what I'm talking about. Go out and find the professionals that you need once you've conceptualized and decided upon what you need them for. Am I just an individual that I'm going to get this newfound wealth? I've never had wealth before. I want to make sure I don't get the lottery syndrome, right? I manage it and grow it. And or do I have, humanitarian projects? Well, I'm going to need different resources, different professional resources for that situation than the first situation, and kind of how to conceptualize that, and then go out and build a plan and carry it out.
Okay, so Bob, did you say, no, that's okay. So do you have this in hardback and paperback? Right.
So if you go out to therealboblock.com, and Jody, if you can pop up a
she's got that up here.
Yeah. If you go out to the Real Bob Lock, then it's a 140-ish page PDF, and the hard copy is 240 some pages.
Okay. And I don't want to be rude, but I'm sure everyone's what's the tab on this, Bob?
For the PDF, it's $15. For the hardcover, it's $31.
Oh, whoa! You should have called me before you priced the thing, Bobby boy. You know what I'm saying? That's a smoking deal.
I wanted to make this accessible. I really did. I wanted to make it accessible. And it really, like I said, this started as a blog post. So I don't know. There's people that have said the same thing to me, Blondie. I may look back at the pricing, so get it quick. But for right now, that's where it stands. And people are asking me to write books on other subjects. Things like coming changes in the, finance, tax, government, and legal systems. And I've started to sketch out some notes to look at that whole set of issues and what the world might look like, so people can kind of anticipate that and put that into their planning rubric. And I'm going to be putting out some blog posts through that website that Jody's posted, going into all kinds of different things. I call it the Anti-Radicals blog. So it's kind of a counterpoint to the Saul Alinsky Rules for Radicals, which is the guidebook that the Obamas and the Bushes and the Clintons and the Bidens and the Harrises are all using to basically destroy the country and put in a communist totalitarian dictatorship. And I think that's all becoming really clear right now, so I don't even have to worry about anybody calling me a conspiracy theorist.
Oh, yes,
I almost don't even need to pull out my tinfoil hat anymore.
I know, because they've all turned out to be true. I heard somebody today, John Kennedy, that senator from Louisiana.
Oh, I love him.
I love him too, and he was on I think Fox News today, and he was saying, well, this is a conspiracy theory, but we need a new one because all of the other ones have been proven true. It was hilarious.
True. Exactly.
That's true. So I'm going to ask just a couple of questions because they're going to be asked, and then maybe we can open it to Q&A. If you're good with that.
Sure.
Okay. So, what do you think about? Do we need to have projects for the Zim to exchange or redeem?
No, you do not have to have projects for the Zim, but you will get the lower rate. And you do not have to have a trust for anything. So no matter what anybody tells you, a trust is not required. The caveat there is, if you intend on using me for an example, I have some 100T Zim notes, and I have always held them and earmarked them for several humanitarian projects that I have scoped out. And for those, we have been told, because you're getting it at the higher rate and because they have a need to monitor what is going on with those funds, and that they're, and verifying that they are being used for the humanitarian purposes for which they have been given, that a trust will be required for those. But if you're just going in and redeeming your Zim, you could just go in there with that and with your currencies and put them into your personal account and walk away, and you'll be just fine.
Okay, so because of what you just said, if you can do those in a trust. If you don't have a trust now, can you tell them I'm going to get a trust to get this higher rate? Like don't fund me, but guarantee me the rate. I'll come back with the trust.
That's a good question. That's a question that you really need to ask when you're setting your appointment. And the only kind of negative that I would apply to that idea is that the appointments are only going to be open for so long, all right? And so you're going to call up to make your appointment. You can ask questions like that then, and if need be, then you just schedule your appointment further out, right? And say, okay, I'm going to come in. I'm going to come in with a trust. Just understanding that I don't know how far out it will be before they close down the redemption centers, and then you just have to go into the bank, and then you're just going in and getting the public rate. So that's something you need to ask on the phone when you're setting your appointment.
Okay, so when you're saying you're getting the higher rate, does all of that have to be used for the project?
What we have been told consistently is that there will be a smaller portion that will be segmented off that is for your use personally, and then the larger portion has to be dedicated to humanitarian projects. So whatever that rate is, whatever the amount is, and we've heard a million different possible valuations on that, but nobody really knows. Say 80% has to go, or 90% has to go towards the project, and then 5, 10, 15, 20% will go to you personally, and you'll get that information at your appointment.
Okay, so if you don't have a project, the personal rate, with or without a project, will that be the same? So let's say I bring in a 100T note. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that should be exactly the same.
Okay, that's good to know. And then, of course, do you have any kind of news, any kind of update, what your thoughts are, how soon this might go, what are you hearing? You know exactly what I'm asking about.
Yeah, and you know what? I keep my finger on this pulse all the time. I'm amazed right now that the majority of information that I'm getting is from the mainstream media and not from sources that I consider credible. That's why I don't listen to very many people because most of them are just, I think there's a lot of people that are just fed information to placate the masses, or to, basically depress the masses into thinking that this is never going to happen. That's why I look at the anecdotal evidence in the mainstream media. So I have talked to people who I count on for good information, and I'm being told that things are happening in the background, but they have slowed down. And anytime that I hear that, it's because of bad actors that they're tracking down, that they're neutralizing, and just to kind of clean everything up. Because at this point, you know what, the systems, they've been out there and they've been stress tested, beyond belief, and the people that are going to be running these redemption centers and the other people at the banks who are going to be dealing with these issues. They've been trained within an inch of their lives. And so there really isn't a whole lot that needs to be done there. The majority of it is just making sure that, the fraudsters and the banksters can't impact this process anymore. So I wish I could be more specific than that, but you know what? At this point, I'm not seeing anything coming out of the feeds that says, I mean, you get the ones that every day it's happening. Well, it didn't happen yet. Well, you know what? It's Tuesday. This weekend, this is going to happen. And you know what? And like I said, Blondie, I don't ride that emotional roller coaster because it's so painful and it's so negative. And really, it's just a waste of time. We're going to know when it's going to happen. And so to me, what I always tell people is just use this time to educate yourself. Go out to Texas Snake's chat room. Go out to my chat room. Take advantage of all of the free educational resources that are out there that you can download and review to your heart's content. And then there's other stuff that's out there. I put together some presentations, PowerPoint presentations on, kind of the ABCs of trusts. If you've never dealt with trust before and you're confused and kind of deer in the headlights because it's legal stuff, it's a presentation. It costs $1 through the Seeds of Wisdom team website. And then there's another one that's more advanced, probably 50, 60 slides that gets into preparing your trust and preparing yourself to go to your appointment, what to anticipate, how to get ready, and how to kind of, work your way through that appointment and not feel like you're a deer in the headlights. So I encourage people to do that. Buy my book if you've got projects, particularly, but even if you're just doing this for yourself and your own, future and future generations in your family, whatever. Get prepared. Get prepared so that you walk into this thing and you're not wasting a bunch of time. Because if you're not prepared, then there's going to be plenty of people that are going to be there to take advantage of you, who will tell you that they can do it for you and you won't have to worry about it, right? And that drives me crazy when I see people. It's like somebody came to me and, said, how much should I spend to pay someone to get me into the QFS system? And it's like, there's people out there charging $900, $1,900. I'll get you into the QFS. And I mean, it's like nobody's getting into the QFS right now. It's a scam. I mean, I put it out on my Telegram. It was just like, come on. There's so many bad people out there trying to, and the same thing with the currencies, Blondie. The people that are out there that are saying, hey, you know what? That's never going to happen. And so, you know what? Just stick with me and sell me. You know what? I'm willing to take that currency off your hands. I'm willing to take that Zim off your hands. And I'll even give you a little profit. And don't do it. Don't fall for it. Just hang on to it. It's going to be worth more than you paid for it. And if you're running around like it's a lottery ticket, you're going to have to be more patient than that, because you're talking about a change in the entire global financial system. And, that's not something that just happens at the flip of a switch. So be patient and understand that we're closer. We're really a lot closer than we've ever been.
Okay. Bob, is everything that's in your book is everything that's in the Seeds of Wisdom, whatever room that is, in your book?
No, that's a whole, that's totally different stuff. So that stuff was to help people that come to me, to ask me to help them create their trusts. So so for me, example, I have 2 trusts. I have one that holds my Zim notes, and that's dedicated for humanitarian projects. I have a second one that has all my currencies, and that's some of that will go to charitable and humanitarian, and the other is personal.
Okay.
So I help people to prepare for their appointments with trusts. But
Okay.
that's related to that.
Okay. So we have, guess who's here?
No way.
Yeah, but because he's going to get penalized now. So just because, yeah, Snake, you're under the porch, honey. I'm just kidding you. I just have 2 text questions from. Then so Bob, while you're on this, let's just go through these. They're so short. Okay. One is there a minimum that can be cashed in on Zim? I'm not sure if that's a minimum note. So, the person who sent me that, what kind of minimum are you talking about? And while I'm waiting for that, I have another one specific to your trusts, Ed. This question was trust question. Is there a form to make a sub-trust or a guideline to follow if one has one of Bob's trusts?
You know what? It's interesting. God, it's interesting you say that. I've worked over the weekend on a blog post that I'm going to be putting on my website that deals with a bunch of information on creating and managing sub-trusts. There is not right now any of that. There's not any of that in the book, but that information will be out there. There won't be like forms and things like that with it, but it will give you the information that you need to understand how to go about doing that logistically.
Okay. So back to this minimum that can be cashed in on Zim. Does that make sense to you?
I don't. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Okay. So he says, if you have 1,100 T-Zims, can you cash in on all of them?
Oh, you know what? Somebody sent me
a minimum number. If you have 100 Ts, can you redeem them, all of them, for all the exact same price?
Okay, so what I have been told, and Snake can clarify this based upon his knowledge, which is going to be considerably more than mine, but what I have been told consistently is that there is a limit upon, so you're going in to fund humanitarian projects. There will be a limit on the number of 100 T notes that you will be able to redeem at a higher rate to fund those projects, and then after that, the redemption amount will go down. And each one, if you've got 100, then it's going to keep going down. So the 100th one is going to not be anywhere near close to what the first one was. But you're not going to care because it's going to be more money than you've ever had in your entire life. Your biggest problem is going to be how do you manage it?
Okay. So, what do you think, Bob? Should we let Snake come in? What do you think?
Hey, can you get the phone to him under the porch?
He's already under the porch. He's going to have to climb his way out. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to hear his thoughts on that.
Okay, Snake. Snake, baby, come on. What do you know, honey?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now,
and
we've been waiting, and all these people.
What a blessing.
Welcome, buddy.
Well, hello, Bob, and hello, Blondie. Bob, I want to congratulate you on the status of the information you provided. And it's almost beneficial to you, in my opinion, that I wasn't able to visit with you while you were describing what was the contents of your book. And the reason being that's the kind of stuff I did my whole career.
And that's why I wanted to do this.
Seek out really, really good professional advisors, attorneys, CPAs, that sort of thing. I was personally involved with the investment banking side of it, so I did the investment work, but I dealt with only board certified estate and tax attorneys for the most part, simply because they had the true understanding of the Internal Revenue Code and could direct my clientele in such a way that they were not going to have to worry about audits. And but what you're describing is exactly what these people need to do. They need to seek professional individuals. And what I would preface all this by is that's the job I kind of took on for my clientele. I would speak out who was a professional accountant, who was a professional attorney, who was a professional banking consultant, and I would introduce my clientele to those types of people. I did this in several states throughout Texas, not just Corpus Christi, but you can determine based on the information that a financial advisor would request from an accountant or an attorney as to whether this guy knew what he was doing or not. And then you could introduce him to your clients with a comfort zone that the attorney or the accountant was going to do the job you needed done for your particular client, so that you didn't do anything to disturb that relationship between you and the client. So I haven't seen your book yet, but from how you described it, you've done an excellent job.
No, thank you, man. I had a lot of fun. Like I said, it was, I don't bandy about, divinely inspired, as a general rule. But like I said, I went back and I've reread some of the things that I wrote, and it really, I had to kind of, change myself and say, where the hell did I find that? And it was a good experience. It was a good experience, and I've gotten nothing but positive response so far. So, knock on wood, so far so good.
Well, every client or every financial planning seminar I ever conducted, I started out with two statements. The one being that there's only 4 kinds of money, and there's only 6 problems with money. And I would explain what each of those were, and the substance behind why I was there was to describe how they could best arrange their affairs to maximize their return and minimize their loss based on these, the 4 kinds of money and the 6 problems with money. I don't know if you all have ever heard those or not, but I can tell you real quick if you haven't.
Yeah, do it, definitely.
All right, the 4 types of money are cash, protection, fixed assets, and equity assets. And, that's pretty, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's basically the 4 types of money that there are. And the 6 problems with money is never having enough, having too much, which is generally a woman's problem because the husband dies prematurely and she's left with a whole lot of life insurance proceeds. She has no idea how to manage. Never having enough, having too much, protection, inflation, deflation, dying too soon, and living too long.
Yeah. That's a big one.
And that's, you start out with that premise, and then you decide, let me know what all you own, where your assets are currently, what your rate of return is, what your tax liability is, and are you comfortable with what you're doing, or would you like to explore alternatives to that to maybe increase your rate of return and reduce your level of tax liability? So but every good financial planner, no matter where they are, if they don't fill out similar to that, they're not really interested in anything about the client. They're interested in what the revenue is going to be generated from, how they can separate the client from their money.
Yeah, no. And that to me is, especially nowadays, and again, I don't want to put on the tinfoil hat, but I mean, mostly we are living longer, and so the whole idea of outliving your money, and for the people that we're talking to here, so many of them have speculated in these currencies, and they are, they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, and when they go through their appointments, they're going to be more liquid probably than they have ever been. And then the question is, how do you make that last to serve you in the way that you want it to serve you? And that goes to what you're talking about. And things like you've discussed, in the past on calls that we've done, that, infinite banking and things like that. It's very, 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 very important for people to use this time to educate themselves on these things, even if they find out that they don't want to go with the infinite banking strategy. It doesn't fit whatever part of their situation, but know that it exists. And then when you're looking at alternatives, you know that it exists, and you're going to have a base of knowledge from which to judge and assess other alternative strategies.
Well, that's exactly true, and the other concept of that is not only to take care of you while you're here, but to be able to pass this funding on to generations that follow you, so that your families are in a position to enjoy some of the benefits of what you've done by investing in these currencies.
Yes.
And infinite banking is one of the best methods to use to assure that there's going to be some revenue left for future generations.
And do you have that stuff pinned up on your Telegram site?
No, I do not. I used to be licensed to do all this, and although my licenses have all expired, I can't make any revenue selling anything anymore, which is okay. But rather than try and put a bunch of stuff out, my intention was to do some financial planning seminars once this goes, and anyone that's of interest in this could attend one of these seminars. There would be no charge for me for what I do, but there would be a charge for them to get to where they're going. I was thinking about doing a couple of boat trips up the Mississippi and possibly a offshore cruise or something like that. And then I used to do seminars all over the country, actually, but primarily in Texas and a few surrounding states. So seminars are not, they're generally between 45 minutes and an hour and a half, and I provide a disc. In other words, the seminar is filmed, and everyone that attends it gets a disc. CD that they can take home with them and refer back to it, but it's primarily I did this primarily for members of the medical profession, because they were the ones that had a lot of money and paid a lot of income tax, and so I would show them how to restructure how they were doing things in their practice, creating trusts and equipment trusts primarily, but you have an X-ray machine, you have a bunch of examination beds and all that, and rather than the doctor own that, let some trust own that, and pay the doctor, an interest rate every month to have that equipment in his practice. And if the doctor owned the trust, he generated revenue from the practice, and the practice was able to deduct the cost of renting that X-ray machine or what have you. Anyhow, I don't want to get off into all of that, but I just want to compliment you on the way you described what you created. I think is going to be a very beneficial asset for anyone that's interested in prolonging their revenue stream and doing it in such a way that they have a lot of surety and personal protection.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you.
Okay. Well, are you guys done with the mutual admiration stuff? Snake, I have to tell you, you were all garbage coming in, and I had to change my hearing devices, so I didn't hear what. Did you give any kind of an update on where you thought we are?
You talking to me?
Yeah, you're the only snake on here, aren't you? Except those bad actors, crashing in on the site. Bob already did his.
Let me precipitate that with how well you look tonight, Blondie, even though you can't.
Yeah, you better say that after all the misery you just caused me. Okay, back to business now. No, do you have any kind of updates, Nick?
What I'm hearing, in addition to what Bob related, is that the world economic situation is in such a mess that if this thing doesn't go very, very soon, that the entire nation and world banks are going to fail and collapse. And the powers that be, even though we may not agree with all of it, do not want that to occur. So there's finally some movement to see that this thing gets triggered. And I'm hearing it could happen just any time, tomorrow, today, next week, but it's very close from everything I'm hearing.
Excellent. Okay, so I have a couple more text questions, and then if you guys are up for it, we'll do a little Q&A. And Snake, you're staying until all the questions are answered because you're in big shit trouble, buddy. Okay, so here's one for both of you. Do you know if anybody has collected on the TRB products that they bought? And I think that's the Trump, the bars and the coins, that kind of stuff.
Oh, I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
Okay. And then, the last text question I have is, would you please ask if Nasara Gassara is real? How do the tax laws change from what they're talking about? You go first, Bob.
So whether it's Nasara Gassara or it's just an evolution into a transition from fiat-based currencies to asset-backed currencies. Basically, once fiat currencies go away, you have to understand. You have to have a certain understanding of history and understand that the original foundation of law, government, finance in this country was based upon gold and silver, right? 17 most important words in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 10. No state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in the payment of debt. And all the stuff that we're looking at right now, all the corporate statutory rules and regulations and codes and all of that stuff, and the IRS and, everything about it, the Federal Reserve, all that stuff collapses because it can't ingest asset-backed funds. So that is going to collapse and go away into the ether. And then what you're going to be left with is essentially a common law foundation, and where we go from there is really going to be a function of who steps forward and takes control of the ship. and it's going to start at a local level, right? Because everything is local. I mean, all politics are local, all finance is local. And so you get away from the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF, right? And you get away from the WHO, all those elite globalist entities, all right? They just collapse because they will have no funding, because the money that we'll be dealing with is superior to what they're dealing with.
Okay. Snake, do you have a comment on that?
Well, I understand that I think Nassar and Gassara started in 92 or 93, and it's been updated several times since then. But to get to what Bob was referring to, our currency as it's currently presented will collapse, and it will be new currency backed by assets such as gold and silver and a few other commodities. One I'm pretty sure will be oil. But that's going to occur, and it's going to be asset-backed currency, which, as he said, will do away with all these agencies that we're used to hearing about now. The Internal Revenue and the IMF and so forth will be gone.
Okay. Then I got something from somebody in chat, in the chat part of this call. Can you please ask Snake what happened with the latest news that you shared a few days ago, indicating that there were some countries that revalued their currencies? Do you have more details on this?
They have been two countries that I know of have been revalued in country, but the people have not been given access to the new rates as yet. But it's a prelude to settling their upcoming budgets for the following year, is why they've done this, and it will take effect as soon as the currency globally goes into revaluation.
Are you at liberty to say what countries?
I've been asked not to.
Okay. But I'm asking you. No, I'm kidding you. I'm kidding.
This was information provided to me by a very high-level military source, and they do not want any information given out about what source or what area of military that was.
Okay, so are you guys open to staying around to take a few Q&A?
Depends on whether I run
7:30
or not.
Depends on what?
Whether I run out of whiskey or not.
There you go.
Well, you can.
You know what?
Are you fully loaded yet? I mean, I meant loaded like in supply, not like loaded like loaded. Oh, man, I don't know how to get out of this one. I meant, can you go on? Do you have enough supply for a few questions? So we have
I have a sufficient quantity at present. Depending on how long you go on, I may have to go mix it.
We're not going to go on much longer, but, you know, if you guys are up for it,
yeah,
okay.
I'm good for 5 to 10 minutes, and then
okay.
and then I'm going to have to jump. Only because selfishly the Padres are playing the Dodgers right now and they're winning.
And we shouldn't look. All these people have to wait, but maybe let's powwow and see if maybe we can do another call, and maybe we'll do it on Telegram where we don't have all these these issues. So okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, I hope I can do this right. Okay, I'm calling on N908. Okay, you're unmuted, 908. Go.
I have a question for Texas Snake. My question is, when do you think Texas Snake, I heard you say earlier that we should be...
Oh,
you broke up. We should be what?
Go ahead, 908 again.
I was asking if Texas Snake thought we would see this by the end of the month. He was saying he thinks we should be seeing it soon?
It appears very likely we will. From all indications I received, yes.
Well, thank you. That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 972. 972, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to know if either Bob or Snake thinks that we should pay taxes, if we're supposed to pay taxes or file taxes by next week, October 15th or something.
Have you exercised all your extensions yet?
Well, I filed an extension, and I thought the last one will be coming up for October 15 or 17. And I was just wondering, since Nassara would be so soon, if I'm tempted to just blow it off, but I also, don't want to be foolish.
There are IRS locations in your area that you can inquire about that based on your current inability to pay the tax. I would check with them, or if you have the opportunity to ask for an additional extension, to go ahead and do that. I give you at least 45 to 60 days.
Okay, so I've never heard of an extension going past mid-October, so that's possible. I'll do that.
It's in certain circumstances, it's possible, but you need to call your local agency and ask them what you need to have to allow you to extend.
Okay, thank you, Snake.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 918. 918, you're on. Oh, you know what? I think I just dumped 918. I'm sorry. Get back in the queue. 713, you're on.
This has a question about the redemption centers. Are the redemption centers still a real thing? Because I've heard several intel sources recently saying that it is only the banks, and I'm getting a really iffy feeling about that information just pointing us towards the banks alone.
I can only respond to that based on what I've been told by Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is using Wells Fargo banks for exchanging, but they're using banks that are multi-storied buildings, 2, 3, 4 stories. It will be Wells Fargo employees executing the exchanges, as well as being the call center for you to schedule your exchange. I can't respond about Bank of America or any other bank, but Wells Fargo is, in fact, some of their locations, they have rented property outside of the banks, but most of the areas where they have banks in a city with multi-stories to them, they're using the bank building to exchange. And it's going to be in a private office on the second or third floor.
Thank you, Snake. And then also, are we getting notification per Wells Fargo, or is it just going to be the 800 numbers? How is that? Is that still working as has been reported in the past?
Well, we're going to get 800 numbers exchange notification, but I, being in the situation I find myself with Wells Fargo, the banker that's running 5 different state exchange centers, there's got about 32 or 35 exchange centers in 5 states. He's going to call me as soon as he knows he has to have people in position to start making calls to schedule exchanges. Once I know that, I'm going to post it in my room. If you're in my room, you'll know as soon as I know.
All right, Snake. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Sandy, you're up.
Yes, this is a question for Snake and Bob both. What is your feelings on the election? Who are you predicting will win the election? Hopefully, you both say Trump. And do you feel that we have to wait till after the election before this RV happens, just so we know if it's Trump or her?
I don't think that, you know what, honestly, and I said this yesterday, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Milton. For a lot of different reasons, I have questions as to whether or not the election occurs at all, because you can't disenfranchise, potentially hundreds of thousands of people in Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and claim that you've got a free and fair election. But I may be proven wrong on that. If that happens, then we got some problems in this country that are going to, unfortunately, I think are going to manifest in some bad ways because everybody should be able to vote.
And none of that was intentional, do you think, Bob? Okay, sorry. I know you didn't want my opinion, but you got it anyway. Okay. Go ahead, Snake.
Let me join in. I believe that Milton might have a very major impact on whether or not this goes before the election or not, in the idea that we've had so much damage from the last storm and this one coming in now, and the majority idea behind the exchange is humanitarian benefits. Who better could benefit from that than people in our own country who are suffering such as they are right now and will? And being where I live, on islands offshore in Texas, I've been through several hurricanes, so I understand what the heck can go on. And I would think that it's very possible this hurricane, depending on the damage it does and what the damage has already occurred, we may see this well before the election.
So if you don't have a humanitarian project already for your Zim, this is a perfect one.
Absolutely. God, we're going to need it badly.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Okay, 918, I'm sorry I bumped you, but now's your turn.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to know the name of Bob's book.
What's that?
Say that again?
The name of Bob's book that he's talking about?
Yeah, Jody, can you put that up? It's called Managing Sudden Wealth Through Smart Team Building.
Well, that's a long thing to write down. Managing Sudden Wealth
Through Smart Team Building.
Where can I buy this book at?
And you just go out to, it's all one word, The Real Bob Locke. So TheRealBobLock.com.
The Real Bob
You'll be able to get .com.
LOCK.com.
Yes.
And I can order it through that?
You can order it either PDF or hardcover.
I want the hard copy, but I was wanting to be able to buy this book. You said so much about it. It sounds pretty interesting, and I want to get one.
Well, good. I appreciate it. Well, let me know what you think about it.
Well, I'll let you know as soon as I buy one. I already think good things from what you told about it. You pumped it up pretty good.
Thank you, 918. Okay. Mary, you're up.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, baby. Loud and clear. It's great.
Okay. Should we have a separate trust for our currency other than our Zim? I have one for my Zim, but I don't for my currency.
It only depends on, and this is a really good question, Mary, because this applies to all of us, okay? Like I said before, I have one that holds my Zim that is dedicated towards humanitarian projects, and then I have a second one that holds all of my currencies. And I did that because I like the protections that a trust offers me in terms of privacy, in terms of insulation from liability, in terms of probate and estate tax savings. but it is not required. And like I said before, if you're not doing humanitarian projects with your Zim, then you really don't have to have a trust at all if you don't want to. Now, to me, when I look at it, my preference is coming into any kind of significant liquidity event like this, where I'm going to have more cash than I've ever had in my life, then to the extent that I can maximize privacy, because it's nobody's business, and insulation from liability. That's why I really like trusts, but it's not required.
Okay, since I'm 71, I think I'd rather have a separate one from my currency. But thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck, Mary.
Thank you. Okay, last chatter here is 832. 832. 832. 832.
Going once?
Sorry, I was muted. Excuse me. Yes, I'd like to know, for anybody that's planning to move offshore after this happens, will we be penalized in any way at our exchange if we are doing humanitarian projects in other countries as opposed to America? Or we may be doing both. But will there be a penalty if the money goes offshore?
I think that's a snake question.
Well, nothing that I've heard has indicated there will be such a penalty. But that's probably a question you might need to require or request information on when you actually do your exchanging.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
I've not heard that there's going to be any penalty.
Okay, so guys, that's the last question. Now we're going back to... Okay, so now we're going to close out. Do either of you guys have any last comments?
Well, since I was the last guy on, let me be the first to close.
By all means, Snake, by all means.
Andy, these calls are always a lot of fun for me and very entertaining, hopefully. But I truly appreciate that we were able to get Bob included in this one, because the information he's providing is, in my opinion, very, very succinct and beneficial. And I would encourage everyone to see if you can get his publication, so you can have at least an overview of what the types of things you need to do to be able to set yourself up. But the critical issue is that you basically look for true professional advisors to give you the information you need, and it's never out of the question to get a second opinion as to whether what this guy is offering is something you know, based on your situation, you should consider. So these guys are competitors, and you need to make them competitors and compete for the revenue you can generate through them, but also to ensure yourself that if you're utilizing a trust, you're creating some surety against a lot of different types of legal activities, being sued for an automobile accident or something like that. And if you only have a trust that contains a car, there's not much more they can get out of you than what the value of that car was. So I really encourage everyone to look into the book that it's been a very beneficial item that I use for over 40 years in the investment banking business, to utilize trusts and various things such as trust to protect the clientele that I represented. So thank you, Blondie, for allowing me to participate, and I'll listen to what Bob has to say, and then we'll visit later.
Okay,
Yeah,
and we all know no choice than to let you
I
participate.
always enjoy these. Yeah, I enjoy these calls. It just, there's so much good information that's shared, and next time let's do it on Telegram or some other platform, just so it's a little bit easier for people. I think people have gotten really used to that. I hadn't been on Free Conference in a while, and it's a great platform, but a little bit more in terms of what you got to do to get in there, and even for you guys to manage it. To me, we're almost there. I really feel like that, and I really appreciate the interest in the book. I've been getting a lot of. I know that things are getting close because I've had people that I've talked to over the last many months who had come to me and said, I want you to help me create not just a trust, but the documentation that I'm going to need to manage the trust through my whole appointment and after that. And now they're finally coming in and saying, okay, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, okay, you made it under the wire. Because once I go to my appointment, I'm not taking any more clients on. So if anybody on here wants information on preparing yourselves with trust for the appointment, send me an email or hit me on Telegram, and let's try and put more of these calls together, Snake, because I'd really like to have one where we talk some about, where you talk some about the whole infinite banking strategy, because I think it's something that people in this world are just completely ignorant of, and I think that it's incredibly brilliant in terms of helping people to manage and grow their wealth. And Blondie, thanks for putting this together. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and I thank you, Jody, for helping with all of this. I appreciate it. And I just want to say one thing. Neither Snake nor I get any kind of a kickback from Bob for his book, so don't want to hear any of that kind of crap. And I sincerely apologize for all the technical difficulties that we had. We were trying, what is it called? What are we on now? Oh, free conference call. So we had 2 days in a row. It didn't work out, but forgive us. And if we see you commenting on any of these other formats about how terrible this was, you're out of the next call. No, just kidding. So we'll as soon as we kind of figure out like another time, we'll try to do this in the next, maybe this weekend or something, but we just have to coordinate our time. But we'll make it a little more friendly user-ish. So great night. Go ahead.
Good point. Good point, Blondie, because Jody is kind of this guiding force in the background, and she's just invaluable to me on so many different levels. I can't even express it. So just love just having this group together. The technology stuff will all work itself out.
Yes, and if it say anything, I think Jody actually likes me. So there you go. So she's a trooper, because she put up with my, my not so pristine language.
Blondie.
Yes, dear.
Blondie.
What?
I didn't know kickbacks were an option to these calls.
Oh, you didn't know there was an option, did you say?
Didn't know kickbacks were an option.
Okay, I'm not sure that I heard that. I had to switch my hair.
I'm just being a smart you-know-what, darling. Don't
Oh,
worry.
I know. I'll have to listen to the replay to catch all that. So, good night, everybody. And we're reaching at a better forum. So thanks, guys. Love y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye.